Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Erosion of Earth. In this video, I am going to be looking at the big, beautiful continent of Africa. Now, I just did a short video discussing Africa and its evidence of sheet water flow, all of these channels, and there's many features. I discussed 6 features in my video, my short video. And in this video, I will discuss those 6 features again, plus 3 extra features. The extra features include accretion ridges, marine terraces, and sediment lobes. And there are so many more locations I want to show you guys. I could only fit so much into my 3-minute video because if you do more than 3 minutes, it doesn't really like to push it. As far as the algorithm goes. But there's so many cool spots in Africa that just have amazing erosion, right? So what we're looking at here is drumlins and scours, and you guys are going to be pros at erosion by the end of this video. So I'm going to start from the top of Africa, and the first. So the first 6 features I want to discuss are wide, straight rivers. The second is close together parallel river channels, which would be something kind of like this. All right, this is a fantastic location for that. And something like this. And in all of these, I'm going to try to really prove to you that wind is not the origin, because that's what a lot of my if you're skeptical of this being from sheet water flow, you're going to want to say all this is from the wind. So, and then drumlins, ripples, streamlined features, and scours. Okay. So, yeah, you'd look at something like this and see that these are massive ripples. And you say, oh, can these be ripples from the wind, right? Can't wind make a sand dune in a ripple formation that happens to be 7,000 feet in wavelength over a mile? Well, I'm going to use some other features, surrounding features, for example, like these scours, for example. This is undercut into the landscape, right? So sand or wind doesn't have the power to actually excavate and dig out a trough like this. And then when we look at the pattern, we see, okay, this is in a line, and these features are horizontal in shape. What this is it's a corrugated ripple pattern, okay? Over here, so this is the same ripples, and then over here, we also have the ripples, and then when that undulating force of the water current digs out a trough, it's a great place to grow things because it's where the water likes to accumulate. And then when it's deep enough, it'll be a lake. Okay, so I just wanted to first mention scours because everyone wants to say, oh, the wind just blew the sand around. Okay, so scours, for example, look at these channels here. Right, did the wind carve out these channels? Look at how first of all, they're incredibly straight. Second of all, they begin abruptly, right? There's no channel here at all. You pass this rock, water went over the rock, and then it was forced downward because once it goes up, it has potential energy, and it goes downward and then digs out this circular lake here. And then once you pass the lake, once it went over the rocks, undulated, then it's not a lake anymore, but it's still in a valley. And then we check out this valley that's nice and straight. And we notice that there's a ripple pattern, almost perpendicular. A lot of times, if you look at ripples, they do form kind of at an angle like this. This is something ripples definitely do. They're not always perfectly perpendicular, but they definitely formed from this. This is pretty perpendicular here, right? And these are very large too. And then it kind of disappears. It kind of gets all messy, kind of almost like a, and then it disperses. and then you see all of these tiny little river channels. And then you keep going, and then you find accretion ridges. Okay, so this is really cool here. All of these accretion ridges. So this is something a river makes. Like if you go to, here, let me open a new tab. If you go to some place that's known for having a lot of rivers, like you could go to the Amazon or something. Or actually, I really like going to Mississippi. So this, winding river path. First of all, this is the mega channel here. Then once the later current, much smaller, came through, made all these oxbow lakes and stuff from when the river went around here. But this is the accretion ridges. All of these little accretion ridges. Now, which is the older accretion ridge, the one on the inside or the one on the outside? Well, the easy way to remember it is it's like a tree ring. So the inside is younger, or it was formed when that's where it's kind of confusing. It formed when the river was younger, which means it's older. And the ones on the outside formed when the river was older, which means that the feature is younger, right? So yeah, kind of like a tree ring. But anyways, these are all accretion ridges. So basically this is known for being one of the most lush, or not necessarily lush, but an area that has one of the biggest rivers in North America, and it has massive flood. It's known for having an incredible floodplain, and it has it's the focal point of a large watershed. So when we go back to Africa and we see that this desert has the same features as the mighty Mississippi, we say, wow, this sure definitely was a place that had a lot of rivers moving. And not just that it was a river, but that it further verifies that this is a river scour here, further verifies that these are ripples, further verifies that these are scours made from a water current. It further verifies that these are drumlins made by a water current parallel to the water current under the physical principle of laminar flow. Then it further verifies these are current ruts. You can zoom in here and you can find some curving river ruts that really say, oh yeah, these are incredibly straight, but it has nothing to do with the underlying geology. Rather, it's an erosional feature based upon the way that the water kind of streamlined. There's all sorts of features. Then you've got ripples in the trough, right? There's so many features. So yeah, this is going to be a long video because I want to talk about just about everything. And this is just one location in Africa. The whole continent is absolutely mind-blowing. And then you find mega-scale river channels. This is one of my favorites here. Let me see this guy. Let's go into miles. 28 miles. Way larger than any river ever photographed. Plus, it's perfectly straight. If you watch my short video, I showed you guys the largest photo. The largest photo of a river ever photographed is 10 miles wide, and it wasn't very straight at all. And then this is also a river channel. Come through here. So let's go to a digital elevation map. This is Soar, SOAR. Great model here. This is the digital elevation model by NASA. One of my favorites. So let's zoom in. So this is that straight river channel, 28 miles wide. Then the only problem is I can't really turn the map like I can turn Google Earth, so it's a little annoying. But this is that other river channel that curved. And this one's like 34 miles wide about here. And you also see that as this river turned, there's other channels that also indicate that as well. kind of a sweeping current in that area. Here you can see ripples. Okay, now let's check out a really cool river. The Nile. What's next to the Nile is more impressive than the Nile. Could you believe that? So check out the Nile. Big old river channel. Probably like 10, 15 miles wide here. But then check out this guy. This is a river channel cutting across. What the heck is that thing doing? And it looks like there's another channel, evidence of a channel that went through here. And maybe something right through here. So let's check that out. Yeah, so the Nile River, and then we find this guy here. This is like 21 miles wide. And so not only do we have a nice big old channel carved into bedrock, but what's so cool is that there's this little path of centered sand. I love this little path of sand. Now, keep in mind, this place is so arid, there is absolutely no river in this central valley, in this massive 20-mile wide channel. No river at all, because it's barely even a watershed because it gets like less than 1/3 of an inch in annual rainfall. So you would expect there to be a river in here, right? So flash flooding, yeah, you get a little river. I mean, where's the evidence of that, right? It's just, okay, here you got some, right? So something like this, maybe a nice flash flood might go to here. But keep in mind, this is just a little tiny piece of the channel. So when this channel was flowing, as it decreased, it then brought the sediment into the center and then left it there. And then you've got this little remnants where it goes through here and then to the ocean. Okay, so I really love that channel. But I'm going to show you guys an even crazier channel. Oh my gosh. Can you guys see it? It's hard to see without topographical data, but from the coastline, we can see the cross section of the channel. Imagine you take a CT scan of, a river channel. That's what the coastline does, right? You take a CT scan of your abdomen, you're going to see, the ribs, you're going to see spinal cord, organs, only the cross section of it. That's exactly what this is, but for the river channel, okay? You don't believe me? Okay, I'll show it to you. So check this out. So let me zoom out one more. So, okay, yeah, this is our spot here. And then here we got that. You can see based upon the elevation, this is the lower land right there in that path. And then it comes and then it hits this channel cross section. And then when we zoom in more, we find these really amazing marine terraces. Not just one, but several. And you can kind of see parallel channels coming through here, but really nice, extremely clean marine terraces. And then here's another one higher up, very clean. We go around this coastline. This is a peninsula in Libya, and it has the best marine terraces, in my opinion, in Africa by far. Maybe even the world. Actually, I really like some in Italy. I'm going to have to give it to Italy. And then San Clemente Island is fantastic. But yeah, clean marine terraces. So let's check that out. So this is the center of the channel. We've got these marine terraces here. So how does a marine terrace form? Well, unlike what you might think, it doesn't form from water washing into it. Rather, it forms more like a river terrace from a current washing across it, making it like a riverbank. Okay? So imagine a current sweeping across this. That's why you get this little rut coming across here. And all of this is just terrace to the top. All of these terraces. River terrace, river terrace, river terrace, river terrace, river terrace. get a little rut coming through here, right? So if it was from an ocean washing into it, you wouldn't have a river rut traversing this coastline. It's not tectonic. It's all from a sweeping current coming across it. Here again, you find that same river rut. It's from a current sweeping against it. And it was able to be focused once it hit that channel wall, or that bank, that cliff edge. Okay, all of these are terraced up. And let's keep going. Yeah, it's just a fantastic spot. But let me show you something even cooler. So we've got this coming through here. But when we see a channel, we don't necessarily know which direction it went. And likely it probably went both directions, because that's just a theme I've started to discover. So we keep going, and now let's check out this deposit of sand. Absolutely insane. First of all, it's streamlined. Second of all, it's pushed up against this uplifted lava, or not necessarily uplifted, but high altitude lava rock. So this is high altitude, and it got the current swept and pushed up and deposited all of this sand. And then we take a closer look. We find there's kind of like mound-like structures and very large textures. And then we kind of find drumlins coming across here that's swept around. These went parallel with the current, right? Swept around this way. Yeah, so this sediment all here was kind of deposited from a current that swept in and around, and that sweeping is also what made those series of marine terraces. And then you can see, you can watch it continue. You can keep tracing it, right? The laminar flow, parallel flow, makes it really easy to see. And then it curves around. Then it kind of tucks right into that 34-mile wide river channel we talked about. Comes through here. Comes down through here. We've got our ripples and our scours, our parallel channels, or our parallel channeled scours that begin abruptly. We got our, mile plus ripples in wavelength. And then you've got our parallel ruts. And then we've got our sick drumlins. We've got our streamlined feature. We can see how this curves like a river, right? So people say, oh yeah, all this is done by the wind, right? Okay, why is this streamlined and why is this curving like a river, right? Why is this a river channel here? You can clearly see it expand and then separate. This is all river morphology, okay? SheetWaterFlow morphology that then decreased into river morphology. So then we continue. We can go over here. We can find some more drumlins. Extremely clean, immaculate, absolutely immaculate. Very swift current. And it decisively left. Because if it didn't, this wouldn't be preserved so cleanly. Okay, it's another feature, or another concept I need to understand, is that yes, it was catastrophic, and then it decreased catastrophically as well. And now this this is streamlined here. Go on to this side, you can see streamlined rocks. And then on this side, you can also see how it's streamlined around this way. You can check out this guy, right? Streamlined around this. You can see this guy. Sand is streamlined around this. If this was wind, why wouldn't the sand be all the way up against it? The reason why water gave it some room is because of the zone of turbulence, right? So before it hits this, water has already hit this and is circulating backwards. That's why it's got a zone of barrier between it. Okay? That's a something you have to understand with streamlined features is that barrier zone from a turbulence. And then you keep going, you can find the laminar right into the drumlins. Beautiful scours, triangular scours, which is clearly directional, this being the front, this being the tail. There's even Carolina bays that are triangular, so just let you guys know up top. The Carolina bays are a type of scour. Go over here, it's all beautiful laminar, beautiful drumlins. Oh, excuse me. It's just very nice. And then, of course, it goes right back into the ocean where it came from. So that's the eye of the Sahara, aka Atlantis. Just kidding, it's obviously a volcanic pipe, right? So what happened with this is this is a feature of geologic uplift. So imagine you've got flat lines of sediment, or flat strata, and then a pipe pushes up. Now that strata is going to be deformed and it's going to be bent like this. Now the current comes through and terraces it flat. What do you have? A cross section of concentric rings. Okay. Salt everywhere, of course. That was kind of another thing why they thought it was Atlantis. Oh my gosh, there's salt here. Kind of funny. Massive ripples, laminar flow. Good transition from ripples into laminar flow with a slight curve to the current. Here's another good cross section between the two forces. And then they devolve into mounds, which mounds are the world's most widespread geologic mystery. But they're basically just formed under complicated currents where the sediment feature is basically carved around, similar to how a skier carves out a mogul. Yeah. And then this spot here, so a water current swept, or an ocean current swept right through here. Okay. So when we go in and we check it out, we find drumlins, we find all of this sand was pushed. Right, it was swept down. But of course, sand alone doesn't really prove anything, so you got to look for eroded channels, right? This is another cross section of a channel, also known as a shallow cataract feature, that came through here. You can see that this rock has been streamlined up and carved up. And then we go over here, and this is an expansion bar. So when a water current is able to be focused, and then once the water current is energetically focused, it then wants to expand. So you've got water current sweeping over land, it decreases in elevation, it's going to want to expand. Then you create an expansion bar. Yeah, so now we've basically covered the top half of Africa. Actually, I should mention Ethiopia. Okay, so imagine a water current running down the Red Sea at extreme speeds. Well, the evidence for that would be massive channels parallel to one another, filled with salt erosion. So that's how you can interpret Ethiopia. Look at these channels. Right, they curve, and they're very deep too. These are very impressive channels. And they curve. They're full of terraces. This is all erosional stuff. Each one of these is from the water level. And yeah, these are basically current ruts. And so when you go into the current ruts, you can find some that meander, some that are more straight, but yeah, these are current ruts. And then you can find another place where they the currents cross each other. It's kind of chaotic. Current coming through here, current going through there, intersecting one another, just like the scablands of Oregon. Also very salty. Okay. And then, oh, I can't even skip out on Somalia. Somalia is too good. Where is it? I think it's right about here. Oh, yeah. Check this out. Okay, so what is this immaculate feature? Well, these are all river channels. These are the lower spots of the land. And in these channels are big old ripples. Right, much smaller than what we've seen previously, but still, these are, get a wavelength. These are still hundreds of feet. 600 feet, much larger than what we find near the Columbia River in Washington. So that'll put it into scale for you guys. And it's just the most beautiful terrain. And you can see the way the channels expand. And it is just so cool. And this is not unique to Somalia. You can find this in the central desert of Mexico. You can find this in Nevada. You can find this in California, kind of by the Baja. You can find this all over. All right, where should I go next? I'm going to basically skip the Equatorial region just because it's so green. It's really hard to see. But we'll start here. And we can see, first of all, parallel rivers in close proximity. That's going to start to indicate sheet water flow. Then we start to see more parallel rivers in close proximity at a different current direction. And then we're just going to follow this over into drumlins. Okay, drumlins are from sheet water flow. Drumlins here. And so that is these parallel ravines. They're not going downhill. The water doesn't care about going downhill. It cares about sweeping across the continent. And then, of course, streamlined features. This place is absolutely filled with streamlined features. Here's another good one. Streamlined. So now we've got a directional indication. And most of these streamlined features indicate going to the, let's see. What can I think? That is the west. Yeah. So it goes to the west, but this massive feature here actually indicates a current from the east because this is the front, and then you've got the tail. Right, the tail is less organized, and you get a little bit of a pointed shape. It's not super clear, and then these here are these scours are also from the undulating force, and they're kind of horizontal. Like this one here is really horizontal, so that could be a part of a ripple formation. Here's a nice triangular shaped one. There's some Carolina bays that look pretty darn close to that. So this having a more clear tail and a front helps validate that this is a directional feature going that way. But when we go into these drumlins here, we find this really nice streamlined feature. It's like 6 miles wide. This streamlined feature here is indicating a current to the west. And then you can go... There should be some more here. You can barely see drumlins here. You zoom in, you find them a little better. Let's see what I want to talk about here. Let's go to the elevation model, see what we can find. Nice river through here. And this went through a tectonic rift valley. So this is actually spreading apart very slowly. But that doesn't mean a water current didn't form these valleys. Let's see what else we can find. We can see, so you see how this is all orange? This is one of the higher parts of the continent. So this a lot of the sweeping features we've seen is more in the green, but this being the high point of the continent, besides this more red spot, these have drumlins. So if these have drumlins, then basically that means that our equatorial region was going to be underwater and under a current as well. So let's zoom in. Yeah, it's kind of harder to see stuff on the orange. The green kind of makes it pop a little more. Okay. I found a feature for you guys. You guys are going to love this. What do you guys think that is? Right there on that coastline. Marine terraces, nope. You're close though. These are big old accretion ridges. The best in the whole world. No place in the world has accretion ridges bigger and taller than these. Okay, and they're full of scours. Okay, so I already explained how the accretion ridge is formed by the river. So imagine a current sweeping across the continent here, and then it came, swept along the continent here, and then it curved this way, and it laid out those ridges as it came across. So that's what all of these accretion ridges are. And you can see how it curves quickly. That makes a pretty tight turn. That's something a water current can do. Make tight turns. So these are like 800 feet tall, indicating very strong ocean currents. And then you can go up and you find, big old river channels. Just like everywhere, right? Now let's check out this guy here. What is this? Well, this is a big old alluvial fan that is about 140 miles wide. Kind of hard to estimate its size, but it looks like it's spreads out right along here. Now, how does this form? Well, given how shallow the gradient is, that proves that it formed completely underwater. Because when a fan is deposited above water, it has to be at a certain angle. That's at the angle of repose, given the sediment grain size, which would be anywhere from 30 to 45 degrees. But an alluvial fan, something that forms completely underwater, that can form less than 1 degree in slope. So we've got a huge deposit of some sand that formed, this 140 mile wide deposit formed completely underwater. So we've got a lot of evidence of amazing erosion, and now we've got a big evidence of river deposition. And this also is showing a current coming from the east now. Just like this shows a current from the east. Came through here and was deposited right there. Let's check out this spot. First, we've got Drumlins cutting across. That's a later current because it's much less impressive than these channels that went this way. And this scoured channel here. So these kind of line up with that rift valley. And it gets all messy in here, but let's see if we can check this out better with this. Yeah, that's the problem. You can't really see it very well. Well, you see how the alluvial fan doesn't pop up? That gives you an idea of how shallow it is. Let's see if I can find it. So it should be directly inland of this little piece there. So right here, I believe that's the one. Should be right about here. Yeah, I was over the top of it. It's just not, you're just not able to see it. But with this, you can see the clean edges from the channel that came down. And obviously, it's very salty. And here we've got more streamlined scours, triangular, directional. You can find some pretty large ripples. Now, this right here is very interesting. Why are there all these layers to these mounds? Well, I can't tell you with exact certainty, but I got a few ideas. They could be water level lines, right? But what I think these could also be, oh man, these are way too clean. Yeah, these are probably water level lines based upon how clean they are. I was going to say that they were pushed forward, like sediment lobes can kind of have series like this, but no, these are definitely lakeshore lines slash water level lines. So yeah, all of these give us evidence of the lake being higher, which this is a pretty shallow lake. It's not that insane to think that it was once full of water. But yeah, pretty cool. All right, let me know what you guys think and what you guys want me to talk about next. I got some things on my to-do list: Australia, Russia. This was also in my short video where I mentioned these scours here. You know, here we got a nice triangular one. Some more. These are really good triangular ones. And these are also drumlins as well. They're a little bit more messy, but for some reason, Australia loves to have drumlins look just like this. And then you can see the front where these are kind of like sediment lobes too, where they got that triangular shape to them. It's kind of where the blend between sediment lobes and drumlins, and it just tells you that the current was a little bit more chaotic and not quite as swift and decisive. But then on top, on the mega feature, is pretty clean drumlins that, you know, a little bit less organized than what we've seen, but still drumlins. And then this spot here, this is in Namibia. Really cool salt scablands. Really textbook scabland type of location. And then we come in here, we've got mounds, right? That's indicating chaotic water currents. But these are actually one of the biggest mounds in the entire world. I think Kazakhstan's got some that are bigger, but these, I mean, that's almost 3 miles. This mound here, 3 miles. So yeah, this is, and then all of these, I love how the how you can find the trails of scours right in the trough of the drumlins. That just makes my job a lot easier. Oh, you know, wind carved that. Really? Explain this. How is wind going to carve out these circular lakes right in the trough of the drumlin, right? It's just, and then here, okay, this is actually really cool. got the river cutting across here, and then guess what? You also get a parallel little trail of scours. It's the little details that really make you figure it out. So this was probably a channel at one time where this was probably like more of the bank here. And you got turbulence and undulation that's going to cause those scours. And then you kind of devolve into some almost like ripples when they more horizontal. And then I like how the drumlins are kind of just right here in the channel. Right? On this side, not really clean. On this side, not really clean. But right where the channel is, that's where the drumlins are most pronounced. Right? So wind's not going to focus its wind right around a river channel. Right? But a water current will focus because that's the low-lying area. Okay? So that's a really good point. And then, of course, this current doesn't actually have that much to do with it, or this little river doesn't have that much to do with it because it formed later and is cutting across all these drumlins now. All these drumlins are older than this little river. So based upon the size of the features, you can then determine the order, and it goes from from largest to smallest. Pretty straightforward. Since we're in South Africa, there's some cool stuff in South Africa. Let's see if I can find it. These are all river scratches, right? The current scratched up all these kind of straight line scours. But there's something, okay, more ripples here. Now there's something really cool in Africa. I gotta show you. Let's see if I can find it off the dome here. It's a tricky little guy. Oh, I think I just found it. I'm getting close. The area I'm looking at is when you find terraces all over the place. All of these are terraces, river terraces. So the river channels here, these are all banks from the river. The terrace is the flatland, the cliff is the bank. So all of this gives us insane detail. Now there's a location that's just insane. I'm trying to find it for you, but on my way to finding it, I can just show you all of these immaculate locations. And this is something you'd find in Russia, something you'd find in the American Southwest, something you'd find in the Indian traps, Siberian traps, any place that's called traps. That means steps, cliff and terrace step sequence. That's what it is. Come on, let me find that spot. I think I saw it. Here she is. Oh, this spot is too clean. So if you were kind of skeptical of, the last location, oh, those aren't terrace steps, you're crazy. Explain this. River here, and these beautiful step sequence. And then look at how it goes into an incredibly energetically meandering river that then expands massively. I mean, mile wide. And then all of these mounds, right? That indicates that water flowed over the top of this. This is just too good. I love, 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 love this spot. Here we also see the terraces, just like what you'd find even in Greenland. Even Somalia's got some good ones too that also have mounds on them. Yeah, so this is one of my favorite spots. And then all of these are little cataracts, little sudden ravines, right next to some beautiful mounds. And you can see based upon these slopes, these are like little alluvial fans. Now finding mounds on alluvial fans, I'll let you guys know, that's actually Very common. Some in Brazil are insane. Yeah, so these are all cliff and terrace step sequences, mounds, even little drumlin likes where the water kind of pushed it into a line. All right, guys, that concludes this video. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment if you have any questions. I really appreciate getting a like and a subscription. So thank you guys very much. I'm going to tell you guys everything I know. It's just going to take a while because the earth is really big. You can see a little trail came through here. This is all scoured out. Salt scablands just like Washington and Oregon. Montana even. Yep, salt scablands in Montana. All right, that concludes the video. I appreciate you guys. Tell everybody you know. Have a good day. Bye.